And that's been our theme all month, Seasons of Love. So let's begin with just the basic principle of love. We want to just keep reminding of ourselves what the universal truth principle is and then work from there. So the universal principle of love is that it is actually birthless and deathless. We talk a lot about at Christmas time, this is the birth. But actually, divine love it doesn't come and go. It's not there sometimes and it goes away at other times. It is always fully realized at every moment in time and space because it is what creates all time and space. It is all time and space, and it is beyond all time and space. So there's never a moment. There is never a space where the fullness and the wholeness and the power and the presence of love isn't fully and completely realized. It's whether we have the recognition of that, whether it's there or not. So all the love that's ever been, so we like to say, and all the love that ever will be, is fully here in this room, in this moment, in your heart, in this very moment. There'll never be any more love than there is right now. And so our journey is about, as much as we possibly can, accessing that love, opening our hearts to it, opening our bodies, our minds, our souls to feel that love and be a greater vehicle for that love to come pouring through us. And this is this wonderful journey that we're on. Last week I referred to Gary Chapman's book, 5 Languages of Love. And the idea there is just, even though love, so we have to look at, well, okay, if the fullness of love is always there, why aren't we always feeling it? Or what do we need to learn? We want to become better skilled at accessing this love. And so last week I talked about the 5 different languages of love, that we all have different styles of how we see and experience love. So for some people, we experience love through physical touch. For some people, it's through words of affirmation. For some people, it's through attention. For other people, it's through gifts. For other people, it's through service. That when we have these things, we're like, oh, I'm loved. I feel loved now. So it's learning what our different languages are. This week, strangely enough, I'm going to talk about the seasons of love. Because this is about time. I've been wanting to speak about it all month. So I'm going to begin with, and it's going to be very brief with all the other seasons except for winter. So briefly, spring is the summer where love is birth, where we celebrate love as birth, as new life. I know we talk a lot about birth and new life at this time of year with the Christ birth, but we'll come back to that. Really, birth is spring. When we see the first growth coming out of the ground, when we see the buds on the tree come out, it's beautiful, and we feel that energy. So I want you just quickly think of those times in your life when love has felt new and fresh, where you've had something new in your life, whether it's a new project, a new relationship, a new job, you have a child. I should say this, by the way. The seasons reflect the 4 seasons of love within us, but they all exist simultaneously in every moment, just like those 5 languages all exist together. So the spring, summer, winter, fall, winter all exist in every moment in time and space. It's not like it just happens in the spring or just happens in the summer. It's just these different types of love. So that new relationship or a child being born, or a new creative project that you've moved into, that could happen at any time. But the loving feeling is that springtime. It's newness. It's fresh, and it's exciting. So that has a very definite taste to it in our body, doesn't it? That feeling of new life. And then the summer love is where that new life becomes normalized, where if you have so when Julian came into our life, that was new, and now it's normalized. Now we are in the summer of having a child in our home, and our life centers around family life. So now we're in an era of our lives where we're raising a child, so that's the summer of the fruition of the new life. So if you have a project, you have a new idea, that's exciting, and then the fruition is living that project, living that new idea, living the new job, living in the new relationship, whatever that new thing is. Summer is about that fruition, and it's becoming a way of life, and that's how love is experienced. That's where you just feel like you're in it all the time, and it's just like the summer months. The sun just seems like it's always up, and there's just always this light. We're in the midst of it. And then fall love is the where it begins to start dropping away. Maybe that maybe the child is about to leave home, or the relationship feels like you don't know if it's going to stay or not. It might end in some way, but you're not sure. And so what I love about fall is, and I love the words in the song, remember the love. To remember all the love that we've been experiencing. It's a time of a reflection, time of life when there might be that time of life where I need to reflect on where I've been and be grateful for the love that I've had up until that moment. And that can be very filling. Sometimes we think about reflection in terms of, well, how can I improve something or how I can make it better? But love with gratitude, or remembering with gratitude the love that's in our life, there's such a richness in it. There's such a color, as the leaves change color, there's a harvesting of all the love that we've experienced, and there's a fullness to that love. So even as it may be coming to an end, some phase is coming to an end, to feel joy in that, to feel the joy of everything that we've experienced. And then we come to the winter. And what I love about the winter is it's paradoxical, that it's both death and rebirth. Winter is when everything dies, but it's also where that new life is born. It's the womb of creation, the mother's womb. It's dark. There's something still. There's something happening. And I love that in the idea of Jesus' birth is inherent. There's the seed idea also of the death and the birth are all tied in as one. The interesting thing about death is, and I've mentioned this in the talk in the first Sunday of December, was that when we get into those dark moments of our life, it's when we actually, all the extra stuff starts falling away. The things that don't matter. When we're in pain or we're going through something difficult, that's when we start to feel in our heart what really matters to us. So part of the practice of the mystics of every religious tradition that I know of is the constant practicing of death, of being aware of your own death and being aware of your mortality. And in fact, I read a book where the guy spent a year just with the imagination that he was going to die in a year and how he was going to be through those 4 seasons with the awareness. And he wasn't dying, he was just doing it as a spiritual practice to face his own death, because when we are at that moment of death and we are looking back at our life, everything falls away that wasn't important, and it really brings out that part that really mattered. We start to see, and anytime I've done that, it's been really powerful, but then I recognize I go for a long time without doing that, and the moment I come back to it, I'm like, oh, that's right, I got off track because I forgot what's really important. I get caught up in what's going on in the everyday life. I get caught up in the tasks and the doing and what I think humanly is important. But when I look at the eternality of it, and it's on my mind because a couple weeks ago I had this dream where I was told when and where I was going to die. So it's sort of like, and that sort of got me thinking about death again. And I thought, oh, I have to remember what's really important, why I'm really here. And so to make this, and so the beauty of a time of year like this, because it happens annually, every year, no matter what we do, there's nothing we can do, the sky gets dark, the days get shorter, and it pulls away. So in meditation, Yogananda talks a lot about turning your attention away from your senses, that when we meditate, we want to pull our attention inward away from our 5 senses, because our 5 senses are what keep us engaged with the world. So basically, in some sense, every meditation is like a little death, dying to what's external to go inside. Because when we go inside and turn off those senses, what we find is this eternal light, this eternal love that we say is always there, but we're so distracted by everything going on or we're involved in. It's not bad that we're involved in participating in, but to take time to just nurture this inner stillness, to take time to nurture this inward light that is always there by turning off the senses, and we get supported by that in the universe every year with the darker season. So rather than resisting the darker season or saying I can't wait till it's summer again, opening ourselves and receiving this dark season is what a gift. It's telling me just to be quiet, to stop, to turn off my senses, and to tap in to that light. And today's talk is the promise. Because what I believe, I haven't talked to all 7 billion people of this planet, but what I believe is that all 7 billion of us have a promise inside of the light that's within us. There's a promise about our life, about what our life is meant to be. And to me, that is a miracle, that there's 7 billion unique promises to all of us. And that when we take the time to listen and to hear it, we actually can move into alignment with it. So I actually believe, so the historians that I have read actually believe Jesus was born in August or September. That actually December, and this makes more sense to me, is a time of conception. This makes more sense to me because to me the winter time is not about the fulfillment. It's not even about the birth. It's about tapping into that promise. Every year we get to come to this time of year and say, what's the promise for this new year? And what I find is that I have experienced is that the promise is huge in terms of if we open to it, we can get a sense of the promise for our life, a sense of why we're here, and we can also get a promise just for this next year. It's so specific. To me, that's just miraculous, that there is this infinite presence, and there's 7 billion people, and it has a very specific promise for our individual story, for the story that we have been living, for our life, specifically for this point in time and space, for the year 2017. And if we listen, we can hear it. This month, like for many of you, has been very busy for me. I've had a lot on my mind, a lot going on, feeling a little bit more stressed, I think, than I usually feel. At this time of year, my mom's coming tomorrow, and I want to make it nice for her. We're doing our Christmas Eve service, our first one on the 24th, and Burning Bowl, and just, like my mind's just going. And I want the new year to be, I have intentions for the new year. My mind's going with that. So my mind's just been going and going, and this is why we do spiritual practices. This is just because, so yesterday, I woke up, my mom's coming tomorrow, all the stuff to do. I woke up thinking of all the things I wanted to get done today. I have my list. But I do my spiritual practices. And I'm saying this as hopefully inspiration for all of us. So I just sat in the little corner of my couch. Jack was on the other corner. And I was reading the Christmas tree lights were on. I was in my blanket. I'm reading the Philokalia, the book I'm reading now. And it was like in that moment, all the stuff dropped away. All the tasks, all the things I've been thinking about, all the things I should be doing. And I was just so present to what it was saying. And it was, we want books that are speaking to us. So this particular thing that I was reading is just, I was there in eternity. I was there remembering why I'm here. What am I doing? And it's just, as I've mentioned, I think this is a time of year when the veil is very thin. And there was that presence. There was that light. There was this promise that was being so clear. And then I went and journaled, and it integrated what I was feeling. I want to say, too, as I share this, I'm sharing it because when I became a minister, one of my mentors, Reverend Michael Beckwith, told us that to be a minister, the job of a minister, but basically our spiritual journey is no different than anyone else's. We're all on this journey together. The only difference with a minister's role is to make your journey public. And I say that because I think secret, sacred, and silent is really important. And I especially think it's really important at this time of year. I think the summer months, summer of love, let's all get naked and share everything about ourselves, great. But I think there's a time to... That was quite the image. I was just thinking it was the 60s, summer of love. All right, sorry. But I think winter is the opposite. I think winter is where we do want to pull our attention inward, where we don't want to go around telling everybody that what we're feeling or sensing, because promises, conception is something we want to nurture. We don't want to just go around. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. We've had this like really beautiful experience, and then you immediately share it with somebody, and it feels like, I don't know, like you lost it and somehow, like it's just not, that it needs time to really become inside you. It needs time to gestate and to be nurtured and nourished and felt before we go around sharing it with people, to let it grow and develop inside of us. So I share that experience yesterday, not because I think it's really important to go around sharing our experiences, but just to maybe reflect or mirror what's possible or at this time of year, which is even in the midst of all our busyness, I hope that everyone here can find at least 1 hour a week. And if you can't, that's a New Year's resolution. A 1 hour a week where you just get to turn everything off. Let it, you have all the same tasks, not saying you're not busy, but just be still. If you have more than an hour, great. If you could do it more than 1 day a week, great. But at least do that where you can just, and for me, reading a book helps, but whether you're a YouTube watcher or TED Talk, but something that's going to carry you inside to you, that's going to drop away, not something that's going to talk about how to be out in the world, not something that's going to attract about your 5 senses or your ambition or your desires, but something that's going to remind you who you are, that's going to let the world drop away. And when we do that, in that stillness, we start to feel into this promise. And what I loved about the reading this morning was that the promise often isn't something you can articulate. It's not something I can say. That's why we want to keep it quiet, too, to let it evolve, let it grow and be nurtured. That the reading was, what Yogananda was saying, was that the truth is something that the mystics often don't speak about because you just have to become it. You just have to allow this new life its own growth, its own evolution. You don't have to necessarily go around telling everybody about this new life. You allow its process to show up in and as your life. But we don't, to talk about that which is unspeakable. And it's unspeakable because when we touch into that place, when we're in meditation or we've had a non-ordinary state experience, a mystical experience, or however we want to term it, it's beyond words. And the moment, if I feel like I have to articulate it, I have now taken something that is beyond words, that is beautiful, and tried to contain it in this very small box of words and language. And words and language that other people are going to understand, that's based on past precedent, because the only way we would understand it is if it's based on something that we've already experienced. So I'm already taking something that was more and putting it in this little tiny box based on past experience. So we even want to maybe stay away from trying to articulate it too much in our own life. Just allow that feeling, allow that inner essence, that connection, that touch. To me, it's like this direct touch of the divine in that moment. And so far this season has happened twice in December for me, just where it was just there, and it was so clear. And that's when I really got, and it wasn't just about who I am, it's about who I am becoming, what this new idea is wanting to be birthed. And it was, one aspect of it was very specific for 2017, and this is, but still not articulatable. But it's just like that you can't say it, but and that's what I'm inviting all of us to do for this time of year. This season, this is the gift of this season, is to tap into this promise. And then when we tap into the promise, when we do this all consciously, we're just going to have to return to the Seasons of Love song at least 4 times a year now. So witness, how is it birthing itself during the spring energy? Because we're going to have Christmas, our Christmas Eve service, we're going to be a little bit more with the promise. We'll have our burning bowl ceremony, we'll set our intentions for the year. Then we're going to, we'll have Easter, seeing what's this new life coming, summer, seeing how it is, November, fall, remembering. That's really important to acknowledge how is this shown up. And then we go back to the end of to the end of the year and letting die which no longer serves us and allowing even more new life, more love to be birthed in us. And this is how we continue to grow year after year into this incredible vortex of love, to be this incredible embodiment and transparency and vehicle for this infinite oceanic love to pour and move through us on every level and dimension of our being. We cannot do it suddenly. This is not a sudden. If we could all do it suddenly, we would do it right now and we'd leave the planet because we'd be vibrating so high. So it is a process of time, but we want to consciously co-create. We want to consciously participate. We want to know what's going on. We're not meant to be just living in a mystery and just God's will be done and I have no idea. I'm just going to go around like a robot. I've talked about that one. We want to be conscious and participating. What is wanting to birth through me? How can I align myself? When I'm pregnant with a child, I don't just go, well, just have whatever. Every mother I know does whatever they can to nurture that life within them. They don't just ignore it and say, well, you're on your own, dude. And it probably would still be birthed, but we want to, as much as we can, nurture that. So what I'm inviting you to do is to be very conscious of this process. Be very conscious of this winter season, of the promise that is inside of you, because it's there. and it is specific to you, and it may not and often isn't in words. This is not something that we can touch into and say, because it's beyond us. If we're growing something new, we can't turn to the past and say, oh, I've been there, I've done that. It's something new, it's new life. Now, sometimes it may not be, someone said, well, how do I know that this is God? Well, first of all, when we directly contact God, you know it. But I also want to remind us, our thoughts are the thoughts of God. So when we say, well, is it God or me? And I'm like, well, what's the difference? Because your thoughts are God. It's just that our thoughts are smaller. We are limited usually to what we already know, but that doesn't mean what we know is wrong, not God. Like I said, it's not the infinite love intelligence. It's part of the infinite love intelligence, but the infinite love intelligence, so it includes the thoughts that we already have and is more. So this new idea that coming through you, it might say, well, I've thought about that before, so is that really from the divine, from this love intelligence of the universe? Because I've already had that thought. Well, it's in alignment with you and you're in alignment with it, because there's no place where God, this infinite presence, stops and you begin. You are an expression, and always have been from the moment you were born, an expression of this divine, infinite, and eternal one. So it includes the thoughts that you've had. It includes the story that you have. It's not going to be something so radically different. You're like going to become a whole other person. It's going to include you, this promise. So it's going to feel familiar but new at the same time. Y'all with me on this? So this is my invitation, is to spend time. We have Christmas Eve coming up, Burning Bowl coming up. Spend time, at least, I know it's busy for everybody, at least 1 hour this week. If you can do more, fantastic. But at least 1 hour, solitude, not with somebody else, all by yourself. Create your little world, and just and whatever helps you go within. What helps, for me, reading helps me do that, and then journaling after that, and meditation. That's why I started with meditation that morning too. But whatever it is for you that helps the world dissolve away, and just empty. Part of this darkness is emptying yourselves. Let yourself be dark. Let yourself not know. Let yourself be in the mystery. Let yourself even be maybe a little afraid, maybe a little sad. Whatever there is, just let yourself feel it. Maybe I'm not going to hear a promise. Maybe I don't really have a promise. Maybe everyone else has a promise and not me. That's okay. Whatever those, just go into it, because when we go into those moments, especially, I really believe, especially at this time of year, like, because it was interesting. Yesterday was a day I was feeling really like, I got so much to do, and my mom's coming in 2 days. And that was the moment where I felt it, because I just prayed. I can't do this. I can't do spiritual practice right now because I got too much on my mind. I can't hear you. And so I was just honest. I was just honest with how I was feeling. Be honest with whatever's going on, and then listen. Don't force anything. Don't make it happen. I'm not getting anything. I'm not good at this. Okay? I'm not good at this. I'm not getting anything. Okay, I can be with that. I'm okay with that. Just keep accepting everything as it's arising. Allowing, and at the same time knowing that you're still in the midst of the divine. Whatever judgments you have going on, accept them. Okay, I have this judgment. I have this judgment. And I'm still in the love of God. I have this judgment. And the loving presence is still with me. And allow yourself to feel into that wonderful heart space. And there you'll find the promise for your life. And that's the new life. And that's this birth, this Christ energy that we're celebrating. That, to me, as any, I have a friend, she writes books, and the time where she gets the most excited is when that new idea comes in. Yes. You know, we're going to sing Joy to the World later. The joy isn't necessarily, we don't have to wait to the birth. The joy is at conception. The joy is like, I was so full yesterday after hearing, like, that connection. It was like, ah. And it's not fully realized yet. It's just a moment. Oh, and that's the other thing I would say. It's a moment, and you have to capture it, because the thing about spirit, and the reason why you need to do all this stuff, is because it's very subtle. It's not hitting you over the head. That's why you don't want to go around talking about it. It's subtle, so find a way to capture it, because you could forget it. The world you might have so much to do, and there's so much going on. It could come and go, and you miss. I know it was nice, but I can't really remember what it was because I had this other stuff I had to do. Find a way to capture it. Capture that promise in some way, because it will be subtle. It will be subtle, but capture it. And that, when you capture it and you acknowledge it, it's like looking at that pregnancy stick. I'm pregnant! Yes! You know, that joy. Well, hopefully, I guess not everyone's all if you wanted to be pregnant. But that's the idea, that the conception is full of joy, and that's the promise of the season, that there is new life, and it is joyful, and it is loving, and it's to express more love in your life, to express more good, to more beauty, harmony, grace, everything that we are here to be and live as.